let's dive right into one of the biggest, deepest mysteries there is. Not just in science, but in, well, all of existence. We're talking about the puzzle of consciousness itself. You've heard this a million times, right? That the human brain, with its hundreds of billions of neurons and trillions of connections, is the most complex thing we've ever found. And yeah, it's an awe-inspiring fact to start with. Okay, but hang on. Let's push past the complexity for a second. Why isn't all that incredible processing just happening in the dark? Why do you feel anything at all? Why are you having an experience of listening to this right now? Why is there an inner movie, a subjective life, tied to that lump of matter in your head? That's the real puzzle. So, to even begin to get our heads around this, let's start with the standard model, the one you probably learned in school, the idea of the brain as a big, fleshy computer. The common view is, pretty simple at its core. The brain is basically a biological computer. You've got neurons, and they fire. They're like little switches, flipping on and off, creating all the ones and zeros that add up to our thoughts, our memories, everything. It's a really powerful and useful way to think about it. And using this model, neuroscientists are making huge progress on what the philosopher David Chalmers calls the easy problems. Now, they're not actually easy, but they're solvable. Things like mapping which part of your brain lights up when you see the color red or feel happy. But the hard problem, that's a different beast entirely. It's the question of why all that electrical activity should produce the feeling of redness or the experience of happiness at all. But what if that whole computer analogy is just way too simple? What if the real action, the source of the magic, is happening at a level we've been completely ignoring? A level that's way deeper than just neurons firing. This quote from scientist Stuart Hameroff just hits you, right? Think about a paramecium. It's a single cell, no brain, not a single synapse. But this little guy can swim around, find food, avoid danger, find a mate. It can even learn. So to say that one of our incredibly complex brain cells, a neuron, is just a simple on-off switch, it starts to sound kind of ridiculous. So if the neuron isn't just a simple switch, what is it? Well, Hameroff argues that the real computing is happening inside the neuron itself, down in its very skeleton, in these amazing little protein tubes called microtubules. He thinks of them as the neuron's own internal nervous system, processing information on a scale that's almost unimaginably small. Okay, let's put this in perspective with a number. For decades, the big goal in artificial intelligence has been to build a machine that can hit this target, 10 to the power of 16 calculations per second. That's the estimated processing power of the entire human brain. That's the number everyone's been chasing. Now, get ready for this. If Hameroff's theory about microtubules is right, that number, 10 to the 16, isn't the power of the whole brain. No, it's the potential processing power of every single neuron. If that's true, it means our brain isn't just more powerful than we thought. It's exponentially, mind-bogglingly more powerful. Okay, so we've zoomed in and questioned the neuron. Now let's do the opposite. Let's zoom way out and question the brain itself. I mean, do you even need a brain to have complex, intelligent behavior? This is where author Annika Harris comes in. She makes this fantastic point that we should be looking for intelligence and complex behavior in places we've always just written off. And when you actually start to look, man, you find it everywhere, in organisms that have nothing even close to a brain. I mean, just look at this. This is amazing. You've got a tomato plant, and a caterpillar starts munching on it. So first, the plant actually senses the specific vibration frequency of the caterpillar chewing. It's not just any damage, it knows what's happening. Then, it releases a specific chemical SOS into the air. And what does that do? It calls in the cavalry. It summons parasitic wasps that come and take care of the caterpillar for it. That's an insanely sophisticated defense strategy. And it's not a one-off thing. There are parasitic vines that can actually sense the shape of other plants from the light they reflect, so they can pick the best host to attack. You've got plants that send chemical warnings through their root systems to tell their neighbors that a disease is coming. It's clear that complex, goal-oriented behavior is absolutely not just for things with brains. So, if consciousness isn't something that's only cooked up inside a complex brain, then what on earth could it be? This leads us to the most out there, most radical idea we're going to talk about. What if consciousness isn't a thing that life creates, but is actually a fundamental force of the universe?
So the idea here, and it's a big one, is that consciousness doesn't just emerge from matter when it gets complicated enough. Instead, consciousness is a basic property of matter itself. Just like an electron has a property of negative charge, maybe it also has some tiny basic property of experience. It's not that matter creates consciousness, it's that consciousness is what matter is on a fundamental level.
Let this quote from Annika Harris really sink in for a second. What she's suggesting here is absolutely staggering. It means that the physical world you see around you, the chair you're in, the screen you're looking at, that's not the base reality. It's more like a user interface, a set of icons that our particular kind of consciousness uses to navigate a universe that is, at its deepest level, made of experience itself. Okay, this has all been pretty abstract and mind-bending, so for this last part, let's bring it all the way back home. What does any of this mean for you, for your personal, moment-to-moment feeling of being a self? Take a look at this. It shows something absolutely wild about how you perceive right now. See, light and sound travel at different speeds. The signals from your eyes and ears and skin all arrive at your brain at slightly different times. So what does your brain do? It waits. It collects all the data for up to half a second, and only then does it stitch everything together into one coherent story of what just happened. And, as the neuroscientist David Eagleman puts it so well, the result is kind of weird. Your conscious mind, your feeling of being in the present moment, is always lagging behind the real world. You are literally always experiencing a replay of events that have already finished. You're living in the past. So if your experience of now is actually a delayed reconstruction of just then, what does that mean for your sense of being a single, solid self? Well, it suggests that you, that continuous narrator in your head, is also a story. It's a brilliant, incredibly useful story that your brain creates to make sense of the world, but it might be an illusion just the same. And that leaves us with one last massive question to chew on. If that solid, unchanging person you feel like you are is just a useful story that your brain tells itself a half second after the fact, then what exactly are you?